Hello, guys. What's up? So, hope you're doing great. So, today we are going to talk about something really important in marketing, and without wasting any time, so let's just we jump straight into the slide one. Okay. Let me ask you something that right now that we are living in the age of big data, AI, and advanced analytics. Well, actually, companies today have access to more data than ever before. But here is the paradox. Why do so many companies still make the wrong decisions? They have a dashboard, they have a matrix, they have insight, and yet things still fail. So in this video, we are going to talk about something that most marketers is overlooked. It is not just the data, but understanding the human behind the data. Welcome to Qualitative Research Technique. Well, now we imagine this like a company has everything, a complete dashboard, abundant data, and clear metrics. Everything is look perfect on paper, but the result is still disappointing. Campaigns don't perform, product don't sell as expected, and strategies miss the target. So the real question is like, is the problem really about not having enough data, or are we actually missing something deeper? Let's talk about the today's reality. We are in the era of the digital and the big data. We have social media analytic, tracking, AI and machine learning, massive amount of the customer data. We can track almost everything. What people click, what they buy, and when they buy. It feel like we know everything about our customer. So logically, decision making should be easier, right? But clearly, that is not always the case. So again, what's going wrong in here? Okay, here is the truth. The problem is not the lack of data. Actually, it's actually the opposite. We are to focus on numbers. We spend so much time analyzing chart, dashboard, and metrics, then we forget some things very important. This is the human side. We ignore context, we don't fully understand the behavior, and we overlook how people actually feel. But behind every number, there is a human story. And if we don't understand that story, even the best data won't help us make the better decision. Oh, in here, this is the key insights like data is very powerful, but it only answer one type of question about what customer buy, when they buy, and how much they buy. But there is one critical question that data cannot answer. Why? Why do they behave that way? Why do they choose one product over another? Why do they suddenly stop buying? And this is where most marketers struggle. We focus too much on what is happening, but we don't understand why it's happening. And without understanding the why, we are not making decisions. So we are just guessing here. Yeah. So the big question is, if data cannot explain the why, then what can? That's where qualitative researchers come in. In the next part, we are going to break it down. Well, actually, like, so if the data cannot explain the why, so what is the solutions? This is where the qualitative research come in. Qualitative research is not about number. It's about understanding people. It's gonna help us like understanding human behavior, explore motivation and emotions, and uncover deeper insight. Because at the end of the day, people don't make decisions based on logic alone. Because there is always something deeper driving their behavior. And qualitative research help us see that in base invisible layer. Let's see on this slide. There are two main approach in research. Yeah, just to make it clear, like we have a quantitative and a qualitative here. Well, quantitative focus on the measurement. It tells us about what is happening, how much, and how often. Meanwhile, Qualitative focus on understanding. It answer like why it happened, how people feel, what it actually means. And here is the important part, like the best decisions don't come from choosing one. They just come like from combining both what and plus why. So that what leads to better decision. Why qualitative is matter? So why is qualitative research is so important? Because number is not enough. You know what, like number alone is not enough. Because human behavior is a complex. People like don't always act rationally, and most of the time decisions are driven by emotions. Think about it. Why do people buy the expensive coffee? Why do they choose one brand over another? So it is not always about the price or the logic. It's about the feelings, perception, and experience. And those things can, you know what, like it cannot be captured by number alone. But it's come with the limitation. You know what, like uh, about the limitation of the quantitative data. Quantitative data is a great at a showing pattern, but remember that it cannot explain the emotions, motivations, and the context behind the decision. So it can tell you what is happening, but it cannot tell you why it is happening. And this is where many companies make a mistake. They see the number, but they don't understand the story behind the number. Next, we see in here that this is one of the most important concept, big data versus the thick data. Big data is about a scale, large amounts of numerical data, pattern, trend, and statistic. But thick data is about depth. It gives us like human insight, stories, context. Yeah. So big data tell you what is happening at scale, but thick data tell you why it is happening. You need seem like as Simon Sinek say that find your why, find your why. And here's is the key takeaway. If you all rely on the big data, you might detect a problem. But without big data, you will never truly understand it. So this is the real world example, like the coffee shop case in here. So to really understand this, let's look a simple real world example. A coffee shop, sales are going down, but customers are still coming. So what actually happening? Yeah. So let's break it down in the next part. Yeah. So imagine a coffee shop. Yeah. From the data, everything look confusing here. Sorry, here. Yeah, like everything look confusing. Sell drop by 20%, but at the same time, customer traffic is still high. So people are still coming, but they are not buying as much. Something is clearly wrong, but what exactly is the problem? Now, this is where is big data stop and thick data is begins. When the company start talking directly to customer, doing interview and listening carefully, they discover something interesting. Just assume that customers say that it's too noisy to relax or work, the barista feel unfriendly, and the Wi-Fi is slow and unreliable. And suddenly, just like, oh, everything is makes sense. And the problem was never visible in the data, but it was obvious in the human experience. So here's the key takeaway, like big data will detect the symptoms, but thick data explain the cause. So human behavior is not always the rational. No, here is something we often forget, like consumers are not always rational. We like to believe that people make logical decisions, but in reality they don't. People are influenced by emotions, by context, by how they feel in a moment. Sometimes they don't even understand their own decision. And that's why if we only rely on the numbers, we will miss the most important part because behavior is not just about the logic, it's about the human experience. Well, we come to introduction to observation slide. So, how do we truly understand the real behavior? One powerful method is observation. Instead of asking people, we watch what they actually do because there's a big difference between what people say and what people actually do. What actually like observation allow us to capture a real behavior. It is not just opinion, it is not assumption, but reality like, and sometimes what people do tells a completely different story. So why observation is matter here? It's important because like people are not always reliable sources. Sometimes they don't tell the truth. Sometimes they don't remember correctly, and sometimes they say what sounds good, not what is real. But behavior is never lies. When you observe customers directly, you see patterns that they might never tell you, and those insights are often much more accurate. And here is a type of the observation. Like observation itself come in different form, like like a direct versus indirect. Do we observe behavior directly or through recording or data? Or second, like overt or covert, do people know they are being observed or not? And structure versus unstructured, like are we following a fixed checklist or exploring freely? And finally, in situ and versus invented, like are we observing in a real environment or a control setting? Actually, like each type has its own purpose, and choosing the right one and depend on what kind of insight we are looking for. So, but of course, that observation I think is not really perfect. Yeah, it also has the limitation. And in the next part, we'll explore these limitations and move into the powerful method. What is this? It's called you know what, like we call it a focus group here. And okay, so this is the part of the limitation of the observation. Even the observation is powerful, it's not perfect. There are some limitation we need to understand. First, observation cannot fully explain motivation. We can see what people do, but we don't always know why they do it. The second, like the sample size is usually small, so it might not represent the bigger population. And the third one, like there is always a risk of subjective interpretation. What we see can be influenced by how we think. So again, no single method is enough. We always need to combine approach. We see here like a focus group. A focus group is basically like a small group discussion, usually around like 6 to 12 participants, and it's guided by a moderator. And the discussion is open, interactive, but still focused. So why do companies use focus group? Is to generate the new ideas, and we have to understand customer languages and to explore perception and attitudes. Because when people talk together, they reveal insight that may never come out in the survey. And also, we have the ethnography in here. Like this is ethnographic research. It's been like studying people in their natural environment. It's not in a lab, it's not in a survey, but in real life. We observe how they live, how they behave, and how they interact with the products because context is matter in here. Ethnography helps us to understand like culture, daily habit, real experience, and today it has evolved. We have a traditional ethnography and then mobile ethnography using smartphone and even ethnography studying on online behavior. So this is where we truly understand customer at the deeper level. So let's wrap this up so I can just conclude that quantitative research, like it's answer about the what, and qualitative research is answer about why, and the best decisions come from the combining both. Because data alone is not enough. Number can show the pattern, but only people can give meaning to those patterns. And at the end of the day, marketing is not about data, and it's about the understanding human. So, guys, if you found this useful, make sure you just rely on number. Start asking deeper questions. Start understanding your customer as humans, not just a data points. And if you enjoy this kind of content about marketing, business, and real world insight, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. Oh.